Welcome to this week's Rob's Country. We're going to be looking a wee bit at China and the seed conference over there. We're also going to be looking at lameness and how that is very, very important. And also, because it's going to be a very dry season, we're told, we'll take another look at GSETs. But in the meantime, brassicas, poisonous.
Certainly
almost.
can be. Obviously, coming into winter, brassicas are a feed that you might be looking at feeding through the winter months, and there are some diseases we need to be aware of. Certainly, worst case scenario, you can end up with some quite massive outbreaks of death.
Yeah, which isn't really all that great. Start off with nitrate toxicity, I guess.
Yes, so nitrate toxicity is something that can cause sudden death. You go out there and you've just got animals lying on the ground. Nitrate levels can accumulate in pastures and brassicas, and certainly highest risk after overcast days or when the crops have been frozen, the nitrate levels will often be higher. The nitrate's converted to nitrite in the animal, and then that binds to red blood cells, prevents the oxygen binding. So you essentially get an animal that hasn't got oxygen travelling around the bloodstream and almost suffocates.
So there's a lot of children now saying, "Mummy, I'm not going to eat cabbage because it can kill you." Sorry. Red water?
Red water is something that we see in cattle. SMCO is something that's at higher levels often
SMCO.
in kale. You want me to pronounce that, don't you,
No,
Rob?
SMCO, it's fine. Just SMCO.
We'll stick with that.
I think we shall, because you get me to repeat it.
Yeah. Can also be in higher levels with sulphur fertilisers if you use those on the property, or when the plants are flowering. Now, it destroys the red blood cells, so it can cause anemias, and also the red blood cell destruction results in breakdown products being in the urine, which turns the urine a red colour.
I mean, this is ridiculous because people plant these wonderful crops. We're going to be talking to Warwick Green Seed Force, so I'm sure he'll be telling us what to do as well.
And they certainly are excellent crops, and they're excellent feeds. And so it's being aware of these diseases and then taking appropriate action to minimise the risks.
Bloat. Now, you think of bloat and clover in summer.
Certainly. Some cases, if they're on these crops, especially if you're popping them onto frozen crops with these awesome frosts that we've been having recently, that can actually result in the feed breaking down more quickly and rapidly fermenting in the rumen, and we can end up with some bloat cases as well.
And tell me about rape scald.
Rape scald, it tends to be in lambs and sheep. The rape plant has components within it that, when in the bloodstream, actually cause a photosensitivity. So in the little capillaries underneath the skin, the sun actually acts on that through the skin, and you end up with like a severe form of sunburn, I guess. But you'll often see these lambs with quite swollen ears, droopy. It's very painful for them. They will recover when they're taken off the crop.
I'm astounded. I mean, we're just getting worse and worse and worse, Rebecca. What about iodine deficiency? You might as well come and really wrap
Well,
it
we'll
right
just,
up. Just put everybody
put it all
off
out there, and
brassicas.
then I'll tell you they're very good plants. But iodine deficiency, especially with your sheep, if they're on these crops during the winter, it's really important to supplement them with iodine. There's goitrogens within some of these crops, so they actually prevent the iodine being taken up from the pasture into the animal. Iodine deficiency, we tend to see the birth of weak lambs, or they die at or soon after birth, or obvious goiters in some lambs that survive.
So, okay, before everybody goes and ploughs their brassicas under, how do we get around all these problems?
Absolutely. So it's really important to be aware of these things, be aware that problems can come up, and introducing the crops very gradually. So initially, over the first couple of weeks, you want to start those animals on there for maybe only an hour or two at a time. So give them a short break. Make sure that the animals are not hungry when they go on.
Fill them up with straw?
Yeah, fill them up with hay, straw, or a more mature pasture. Make sure they've got plenty of fibre available to them while they're on the crops as well, right through. So straw or hay, or giving them small breaks and keeping them back-fed with pasture as well.
You hear stories, Rebecca, about people who don't have a good enough break fence and the cattle get through and boof.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the sort of scenario where you can go out there and you can see dead dead animals, unfortunately. So, you know, you've either had bloat or nitrate toxicity. So making sure that your fences are electric, and also maybe even double fencing as well if you've got stock that are.
Because somebody else's dairy cow becomes exceedingly expensive, I would have thought, if you're.
Yes, if you're in the you know, growing game or fattening or anything. I mean, they're all very valuable animals. So. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, even though we've gone through, and to me, I mean, I will never eat cabbage again because it's all it's wonderful. I have to eat cabbage. But I mean, seriously, as long as you're very, very careful, in particular about putting food into them before they go into the brassicas.
Yep, introducing it gradually, so slowly building up that time. They're grazing the brassicas daily up until 2 to 3 weeks. They can generally be on that crop full time. Making sure you're aware of what you're feeding and the ideal maturity of the plant for feeding. Things like rape scald, it's a much bigger problem in the immature plant, so wait until the rapes mature before feeding it. And being aware too, if you've got concerns with nitrate toxicity, you can actually get the forage tested for nitrate levels.
Sure, and I'll probably talk to Warwick about that as well.
Yeah.
See, the other thing is that phytobete have become very, very much an instrument now. I mean, people are just saying, I can't believe I haven't been growing it. And a lot of that is harvest and carry.
Yes.
So you've got to be a bit careful there with the greedy cows, don't you?
It's something, again, where you don't want these cows going in and overeating on any of these as well. So if they've, on your dairy properties, they've come through milking, they're going out onto the feed pads and having these feeds, some of those cows are really pushy. You need to make sure that they're not going to overeat and...
First signs? Death?
Unfortunately, it can be. So things like nitrate toxicity, death, but often you'll see animals, they're a bit dull, they're a bit dopey. Their nitrate toxicity, their gums, if you get close enough, will often be a muddy brown colour because there's no oxygen in the blood. Bloat, obviously you can see the side of the animal quite tight and drum-like in the early stages. Try to avoid that if you can, if you get them early enough.
Be upwind if you do.
Yeah. Get them early enough, get anti-bloat drenches into them. It's much less mess at the end of the day.
So monitoring, making sure you were keeping an eye on everything.
Exactly.
Thank you very much
Great.
indeed.
Thanks, Rob.
Staying on a very similar subject straight after the break, we're going to be talking lameness with MPI.
Airtech wastewater treatment systems are the future here now. Easy to use and efficient e-sewage plants are already where the environmentalists are heading. You can relax as new rules come into place. A series of chambers does the work while you reap the benefits. Easy to landscape, they're ideal for new homes or as a replacement for an old septic tank. Airtech wastewater treatment system, your advantage when dealing with grey or black water. See the RX Plastics website for details or contact RX Environmental.
Christchurch has its very own enchanted utopia, the Hitching Post. Pop in and see for yourself. A magical assortment of handmade creations, custom-made candles and artwork. Choose from our huge range of water features, garden art and imported giftware. Specialists in handcrafted metal artwork made in store. Nestled on 722 Marshlands Road. The Hitching Post, defining art our way.
My son's helped me greatly with my independence now that I've got more mobility.
Mum, I've been looking into stand assist chairs from More Mobility. They recline back with a footrest, then when you want to get out of them, they stand you up. You can even sleep on them. More Mobility can bring one out for a free trial. There's even electric beds too. What do you think? For more range and more expert advice, see More Mobility, corner Clarence and Princess Streets off Blenheim Road.
What a difference more mobility makes.
Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to Carpet Kingdom. At Carpet Kingdom we stock a massive range of carpets and we're also the largest vinyl stockist in the South Island. And not only do we have an excellent range in store, but you can purchase our stock online. We offer free measuring quotes, we have our own installation team, we ship nationwide, so come on down and see us at Carpet Kingdom. 312 Wilsons Road in Waltham, just off Brougham Street, or visit us online at carpetkingdom.co.nz.
A new companion package is a personalised service for those that need extra help and support. A cost-effective solution for someone who needs more than just a taxi driver. Our drivers are handpicked from our experienced team and specialise in providing the right support and companionship. Home safe every time with Blue Star Taxis.
Do you wear an earpiece or earmuffs? Do you have trouble hearing people or the TV? Do you have itchy ears? Then it's time to clear the air. Their gentle micro-suction technique is not only safe and efficient, but it's also performed by fully qualified, trained, registered nurse. Call for an appointment or Clear the Air can come to you. Need earplugs? We have swim, noise or aeroplane plugs and many more. No referrals necessary. Hear every moment with Clear the Air. Phone 0800 Ear Clean.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Staying with animals and animal health, lameness is a very major concern.
Lameness is always an issue at this time of the year, now that we're moving into the winter period, particularly in dairy cows, where we get a lot of rain and it affects the paddocks and also the farm tracks and things like that. And also because it's getting towards the end of the dairy season, the cows are tired and farmers are tired and things like that. So the lameness becomes more of an issue at this time of the year.
Richard, as a vet, is there a sort of a best practice that we should be looking at?
I think most livestock producing countries have issues with lameness. It's a very major issue, I guess. Whether you're producing stock in an intensive environment or an extensive environment, lameness can be an issue. So it's about good management. You know, no matter whatever your system is, it's got to be about good management, having a good group of rural professionals around you to provide the right advice on how to manage in your situation.
I guess in the practical dairying stage, I mean, you've got so many things that can go wrong. Big stones on your paths.
Yeah, that's right. Also, tracks are worn at this time of the year, and farmers obviously they work to budgets and things like that. So there's all sorts of issues that come up. So I guess the main important thing really is when the distance that cows will walk to the shed is obviously a major issue. We don't want to see cows being walked too far, otherwise their hooves get worn. Another factor, of course, is wet and muddy tracks. We don't want cows walking over wet and muddy tracks. They're reluctant to do so. They don't like it, and also it softens up their hooves. In addition to that, we also want farmers to be mindful when they're pushing their cows along. We don't want them rushed. We don't want them pushed up from the back, because that obviously puts pressure on those cows. We want them to walk at their own pace, and so they're free to walk evenly to the shed.
You're nodding your way, aren't you?
A plug for Dairy NZ's Healthy Hoof program. Dairy NZ have got a lot of good information about lameness management, and that information is obviously available through Dairy NZ to dairy farmers about laneway design, how to look after and minimise the chances of your cows getting lame in the first instance, and most of this is about prevention.
I guess it's the old rule: if a cow's head lifts, she's being pushed too hard.
They have a really good DVD that shows you the various mobility scores of cows walking, and the levels 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and it's about watching where their head bobbing, whether their back's arched, the movement in the feet, etc., etc. So there's a whole lot of things to look at in terms of identifying where the lameness is coming from.
Prevention is one thing. Cure, what's treatment?
Well, there's a whole range of treatments depending on what the particular issue is, and there's a lot of good skilled individuals out there that are able to sort of trim feet well, and obviously veterinarians are there to provide input into prevention and treatment of lameness. Obviously antibiotics are important use for treating these things, but yeah, it's about trying to prevent this through good design, good animal health and animal husbandry. Too much concrete and standing on concrete, all those sorts of things. So it's a management issue.
Gary, what should we be looking for? Because no doubt there's varying types of lameness.
Yes, that's correct. The main thing that farmers need to do really is to check their stock regularly, observe them walking. If they see the head coming up, or non-weight bearing on all four legs, that's a good indication of lameness. obviously, once they locate a cow with lameness, they want to treat it as soon as possible, and definitely within the first 24 hours. There's several different kinds of lameness that you can get. For instance, you've got foot rot, you've got stone bruising, you've got impediments piercing the hoof. Those are some of the main ones that we come across, and obviously when you come across those ones, if staff aren't competent to deal with them, then they need to get a vet in probably within the first 3 days of identifying it, and basically mitigate the problem and put the cow onto a treatment program by isolating it from the herd, making sure it doesn't walk very far, and even drying it off early. Those sorts of measures can be taken as well.
So Richard, really is time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence. You know, we're not just talking about dairy cows. I mean, lameness in sheep is a common issue. Same sort of concerns. You know, wetness, you get a whole lot of foot conditions. I mean, the merino industry, foot rot is a major concern. Foot abscess, etc., etc. Yeah, and it's about identifying these things early. Good management, good animal husbandry, identifying and resolving the issues before they get to a stage where these animals are in severe pain and distress and have to be put down.
We used to have a thing called scald.
Scald. Yeah, there's all sorts of different names given to things. As every decade, there's another name for these things. But the bugs are still the same, and the cause is still the same. Some of the treatments have changed a bit, but I've been involved with you know, dipping sort of sheep's feet, you know, 30 or 40 years ago, and I think the same issues still arise. Some of the treatments are a little bit less bad on the human back. It's still a big issue in the livestock industry.
Do we still use bluestone?
No, I think we've moved ahead a bit from bluestone and formaldehyde and all those things.
I think I've just put a date on myself.
I think you might have.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We did used to use bluestone, and it was a long time ago. After the break, though, we're going to be talking about brassicas, fodders and lucerne. First, we take a look at China.
Mainland Minerals have been giving farmers the edge since the 1950s. Sophisticated and very accurate soil tests and a vast knowledge of what the soil needs means those using Mainland Minerals get their costs extremely low while getting the very best results from their fertiliser. Fertiliser application is a science. Get it wrong and you pay. Get it right and it'll pay you dividends. Mainland Minerals, proven over 60 years and one of the best kept secrets in farming. Contact the award-winning guys and turn your property around.
Yuck, look at all this moss and lichen. I'm not getting up there, not in these heels. Time to call Mossbuster.
Mossbuster is a no-bleach, non-abrasive, biodegradable solution that has over 35 years of proven results. You can buy Mossbuster online for less than half the cost of other well-known products and can be yours for less than $1 a litre. You just spray it on and let Mother Nature do the rest, or Mossbuster can do it for you. Check out our website or call the Mossbuster crew for a free quote. Mossbuster, 0800 88 1000.
Come dine with Country Catering at the Kaipoi Golf Club Cafe. Enjoy our range of delicious $10 lunches, daily specials and other homemade goodies. Open to the public 7 days inside the Kaipoi Golf Club, north end of William Street, Kaipoi. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Action Removals, offering short or long-term storage facilities, full packing services, comprehensive rates, all fully insured and with 6 vehicle sizes to choose from. Earthquake repairs? Action Removals pack, move, store and return your valuable possessions stress-free. Action Removals, a family business that has been operating in Christchurch for over 10 years. Action Removals, your one-stop removal service on time, every time. 0800 222 526. Missed a show or want to watch it again? CTV is fitting in with your lifestyle. Be in control with CTV On Demand. Check out our website and follow the links, ctv.co.nz. Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
With so many car fans in the region, Canterbury Christian Funeral Service have been asked very often if they had an enthusiast hearse. So they bought one. The Ford Galaxy is a custom-built hearse for those who want their last journey to be a memorable one. Complete with racing motor and exhausts, the vehicle certainly stands out, and if you want to go out in something that's very different, or you want your loved one to have their last journey very special, contact the team at Canterbury Christian Funeral Services.
Welcome back to the program. Rachel just about took me right off brassicas, but they are really important. How's fodder beating things going?
Oh, well, of course, this is the season for the winter feed contests, Rob, and of course there's been quite a few around Canterbury and in further south, and fodder beats featured pretty well. In fact, I think in several of them it's won the competition. So it's really coming into its own now in terms of, you know, being used by many farmers, and you know, they're finally realising just what the potential is for this crop, both in terms of yield and in terms of the quality of the feed that they actually get off it. So yeah, it's going along pretty positively.
Those points that she made about Redwater and School, they are real, but it's still a very key crop.
Well, of course, you don't get those on fodder beet. You get them on forage brassicas. So things like kale, things like rape. The two other, and certainly kale is probably the other major winter feed. So you do have to watch them. So I think some of the keys, I mean, all crops potentially can give you the nitrate issue. And in many cases, a lot of the causes are associated with the way you introduce the animals. And so I think certainly, you know, there has to be an introductory phase when you bring animals into new crops, and especially brassicas. And one of the things that we need to do is make sure that you get an idea of how much dry matter or the yield that you've got in front of you in terms of the crop, so that you can actually apportion the crop daily to the animals as they need, rather than basically giving them a free rein, and that's when you have your problem.
That's when you got your problem.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about a dry spell, everybody's talking about it, so it's got to come.
Well, hey, I mean, after all the rain we've had, I mean, at home on the farm we've had 500 millimetres for the year to date, so we're like a bog. But, I mean, the reality is that Canterbury always evens itself up, and yes, we're into an El Nino phase, and by all accounts, by August we will be into it. So I think some of the learnings from past, we've had them before over many years. Plan early. Look at those specific crops that are going to be useful in able to tolerate dry conditions, that are able to actually use less moisture. And I mean, again, our forage rapes, for example, are fantastic in the spring because they don't need as much water to actually grow and produce a good crop. So, you know, 1 millimetre of rainfall will actually produce 40 kilograms of dry matter. So you're not going to get that out of ryegrass.
No.
So plan early, and some of that planning also is linked to identifying the paddock that you're going to use, making sure that you adopt a strategy to conserve as much moisture as possible.
Direct drill rather than plough and that sort of stuff?
Well, if that's possible, Rob, but even if you have to go through traditional cultivation, don't do it at the last minute. Do it in a manner whereby you can actually almost have a stale seed bed, you know, work it down and allow the moisture to come back so that you get that good strike. So there are key things. I think also for farmers that are thinking of some other drought-tolerant species, well, obviously lucerne is... it's an interesting one because lucerne, in terms of the demand and the actual seed sales, I think, across New Zealand has increased quite dramatically in the last sort of 5 to 7 years. It's a fantastic legume that's got a very deep taproot, as you well know, and I mean tolerates very good dry conditions. So farmers are looking at that. Again, follow the same approach as you would with brassicas, and and I mean we'll be no doubt talking a bit about lucerne as time progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it a myth that you can't tup ewes on lucerne? Because people have said that for a long time, but I don't know.
I think there is an issue with estrogen, and just like in red clover, you've got the same issue with formanonitin. It's in that period just prior to mating, that yes, you can have some impact. Although I think there was some recent work done at Lincoln that showed that if you're in a drought situation and your ewes are going backwards in terms of live weight gain, and your only alternative is actually to put them on some lucerne and maintain their body weight, you will come out better by doing that, rather than just letting them deteriorate. So
well, the other thing is we've got new cultivars anyway.
Yeah, well, yes, but it's more the principle of it will have some impact, but it's not 100% loss of pregnancy.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
it's not that bad.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
China, tell me about the World Seed Conference.
Well, yes, I've just come back from a week or so in China, and it was the International Seed Federation. It's the global meeting that happens every year of seed companies from around the world, and the first time ever in Beijing, and in fact the biggest meeting of delegates from around the world in China since the Olympics. So they gave it a fair fanfare, I suppose.
Which is lovely, isn't it?
Lots of billboards and lots of flags, but a very interesting country. One which, yes, you have to be there to experience the pollution. It is real, and it is significant. The people, I think, were extremely good to us, and very accommodating and very welcoming. And a country that I think has got huge potential, and no doubt its agriculture, though, Rob, is still quite a long way back in terms of it's intensive in parts, certainly in the horticulture and vegetable areas, but in the balance of agriculture, it's still lacking, and will take a while to catch up. But on that, the prediction for the harvest, which is just about to happen for wheat, it'll be their biggest wheat harvest ever in China. So, and a significant improvement on what they've had in the past. So that's really positive.
We don't think about broadacre in China. We think of very small family plots, don't we?
Oh, shivers no. Well, they've got plenty of land. I mean, it's a huge country. But yeah, it was extremely interesting. I mean, some of the feedback is that, from Europe, for example, there's been quite a significant impact in some crops due to the Ukraine issue, because Ukraine was a major agricultural hub, and so things like some maize and sunflowers and some of those sort of crops have taken a bit of a dive because Ukraine's been in a shambles. Grass seed and clover seed, those sort of things that obviously New Zealand farmers are interested to know what's going to happen. I think it'd be fair to say that the demand for 2015 is probably going to be still quite slack. They've got quite big inventories over there, and so they've got quite a lot of... They need a couple of good jolly sales seasons to actually really get rid of what is quite a bit of inventory. But their harvest is just about upon them in much of Europe, and so far it's looking quite a good harvest potentially. So
it's not going to help us too
much.
It's
not going to help us too much. So we've got to be just conscious of that. But we've got to read these signals, because if we don't, then we'll be disappointed. In terms of what might be the situation next autumn.
Are we very small as far as the world is concerned?
Well, obviously, but in terms of the role that we play in terms of seed production and specialist seed production is world leading. So vegetable seed production, carrots and the red radish, for example, we produce probably 50 or 60% of the world's need. So we're a very dominant player in white clover. We're the number 2 behind Denmark between the between New Zealand and Denmark, we produce most of the white clover in the world.
I wouldn't have thought of Denmark
Seed.
either. You see,
Yeah.
if that had been a trick question, I would have got it wrong.
Well, Denmark is a major grass producer. I mean, they've got 80,000 hectares of grass seed production. So they're a major supplier into Europe. And yeah, I mean, we hold our position pretty strongly in terms of, I think the key here is that we've got very good quality of seed. So we produce very good, a standard of purity, germination and quality, and I mean, they're key. Yep.
And we're also off season, aren't we?
Correct, correct. That's the good thing, in that you know, people are not holding inventory in the other side of the world. They can actually make a decision after their harvest, say, been taken in July and August, and they've had a disaster, and they can immediately contact us down here and say, Shivers, we need some new spring brassicas growing or something like that, and that's the way it works. Yeah.
In China, just let's get on with it and do it sort of country.
Well, where we stayed, Rob, we were we were on the edge of Beijing. We were almost 30 kilometres out from the centre of Beijing, so it gives you a bit of an idea. 2 years ago was agricultural land, okay, farming land. In 2 years, they had built this suburb, which was damn near the size of Christchurch. In 2 years, had built this unbelievable. The Department of Agriculture built this big new hotel, which was primarily going to be an agricultural centre and hub, and that was only finished the day of the conference. But unbelievable! You must go there to really experience it.
Warwick, thank you very much indeed. After the break, because of the dry spell, we're going to be talking about irrigation.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, the naturopath here at Staywell Pharmacy. Working with the pharmacist, I use herbal and nutritional medicine to recommend natural alternatives for your health. This can be to counteract any side effects of your medication, general health advice, or natural options for you and your family. I'm also available for consultations. So come in and see us at Staywell Pharmacy, 27 Shand Road, Hornby. Staywell Pharmacy, live well, stay well.
Blackwells has a proud history presenting leading vehicle brands, extensive backup and service for a total one-stop driving experience. Holden, Mazda and HSV new and used vehicle sales, servicing, parts, paint and panel, Isuzu truck sales and service, all together in one convenient location. More selection, more value, more quality and more reasons to make Blackwells your #1 choice. Visit Blackwells today, corner Waterloo Racecourse Road, Sockburn, or online at blackwells.co.nz.
We all know the best thing you can do for your body is eat fresh foods in their natural state. The same applies to your skincare. Southern Skin provides a skincare range with fresh, locally sourced ingredients, plus natural preservatives and emulsifiers to produce the best nourishment for your skin to unleash your healthiest complexion. New Zealand olive and aloe skincare for young or old, men, women and children. There is a product in the Southern Skin range for you. southernskin.co.nz.
Potholes. To some, a simple hole in the ground, causing no harm and no concern. But don't let that fool you. Potholes are dangerous. Did you know potholes have been linked to numerous nasty falls and flat tires? So if you have a pothole situation on your property, don't panic. Call the Pothole Repair Company. They'll fix your potholes in a jiffy. So next time you see a pothole on your driveway or in your car park, call the Pothole Repair Company.
Pestral has the latest technology that repels rats and mice and even helps control cockroaches, covers walls, ceilings and open spaces, combines electromagnetic, ultrasonic and ionic technologies. Harmless to pets and people, just plug it in. Order your Pestral rodent-free today. Now $149.90 plus courier. Order within 20 minutes and get it courier free. Call 0800 88 88 44 or go to pestral.co.nz.
Welcome to Caltex Redwood. We're a family-owned business proudly supporting our local community. We're open 24/7 for fuel and shop goods, and we have an amazing team of people ready to help you. Save at least 6 cents per litre using AA Smart Fuel cards. We also offer great value on our LPG bottle fills. We have a full workshop and Bridgestone Tyre Centre. Our mechanics and tyre technicians will get your car sorted. Caltex Redwood. We're just down from St Bede's on Main North Road. Caltex Redwood. What drives you?
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Well, as we keep saying, it looks as though it's going to be a dry season for the whole of New Zealand. So I thought we'd go back and take another look at the G-set things, which RX Plastics have come up with for once. It wasn't their idea.
On this particular occasion, a customer came to us with an idea that they felt solid set irrigation had a place, but not on a post that cows push over, and they'd seen a lot of problems in that area. And a relatively short time ago, a customer came to us with an idea, and we took that idea and developed it.
About 15 months?
15 months, yeah. October 13th, 12 months ago, sticks in my mind.
So tell me the principle, how does it work?
Well, it's our take on a solid set system. Solid set systems have always been very much sought after, but everybody falls off their chair when you give them a price. Just not economic. I mean, they say, hey, but we can do it at the local golf club, we can do it in all sorts of horticultural areas where the crops are very high value, but for broadacre pastoral, it was just ridiculously scary.
You're talking a sprinkler on top of a post?
A sprinkler on top of a post, a pop-up, like in a golf course situation, they're pop-ups in the greens and in the fairways. Pop-ups are probably one of the most common for solid set. On posts, in rows, pipes laid out, there's all sorts of solid set systems, but just ridiculously high capital value, mainly because you've got to have sufficient pipe size to carry all your water to every point on your property, which most systems you can telescope out and make your pipes a little bit smaller. With our system here, we've decided to go for control as being the key, which enables us to use a low value pipe through the majority of the system, a 63mm PE that can be cheaply mole ploughed into the ground behind a bulldozer, and then we put a string of pods onto that, and then operate each one individually. So only one sprinkler is going on a ring main of up to possibly 48 pods. We split that into 48 half-hour time slots, and then the sprinkler runs for half an hour, puts on the previous day's transevaporation, and keeps the plant running at 100%.
So it's one at a time, it's not sort of mass launching then?
Not mass launching at all, no. 1/48th of any given area will be operating at any one time. So if it's a full-scale property, it would have any number of ring mains, each ring main having one sprinkler operating on it at any one time.
It's interesting, Tony, you're using it on very steep country, and you're also using it in corners where centre pivots aren't working.
Yeah, we identified before we started two areas where they were going to have a place. Someone invests a lot of money on a centre pivot, and they end up with at best 14% of their farm having to have some other type of irrigation, and they didn't want, having no labour on their pivot, they didn't want to have any labour in their corners, and when you're not, those corner areas are odd shapes and quite hard to get good coverage, and you've still got to have someone running around. So in a paddock like this one, we can see a couple of pivots. I mean, we're just filling in the V's, or the areas that the pivot can't reach to. Behind me is a corner that just ducks away a little bit, and we have 8 units in there, 8 units up on the hill, and then there's a corner over here that has 7 units in, giving 100% coverage for this area.
Let's have a look at this property, because it's quite hilly, and the guy had illusions of grandeur, but you were able to fix.
Absolutely. I mean, this property's been bought from a sheep beef operation, mainly sheep, because it's pretty hard country without any water. And on the surface, he was going to be able. He bought it at the right price to be able to farm this, fully utilising about 56% of the property. Now, with the addition of GSET, he's going to utilise about 98% of the property.
So, are they complicated? You've got to do fluckany in your hand, which looks a bit complicated to a layman.
Yeah, devil's in the detail. The basic system is very simple, but it's hard to make it simple. It's taken a few sleepless nights to get to this point, and the fundamentals are very simple. The implementation is critical. The devil is in the detail. Get some of that detail wrong and you will not get the right result. Yeah, there's a lot in the background before you start installing the GSETs into the ground. You get that right, it's simple.
You guys are there to support.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not so much us. We're the manufacturer. We're doing as much of the groundwork as we possibly can think of in terms of pointing out pitfalls and all of the points that need to be considered. But this is a product that you need a competent irrigation engineer involved with in terms of the mapping of your property and the setting out and getting the right result. So the product will only ever be sold through irrigation companies that have those competencies.
Doesn't look as though wind would affect it much.
No, I mean, we've deliberately gone for a large sprinkler, low pressure, large droplet size, low to the ground. So of any of the systems that are out there, we will get the minimum disruption from wind.
How do you get on with your steep country and it flowing off?
Well, because the system is designed just to put back 1 day's transvaporation, each sprinkler is only running for around about, ballpark figure, half an hour. It's putting on 6 mils. 6 mils doesn't run off. The leaf structure and the soil structure is quite capable of grabbing 6 mils and holding it in place.
And it's going to revolutionise the steep country like what we're looking at behind us even.
Absolutely. It's one of the driving forces behind the original concept was the fact that country is getting more and more marginal. People are moving out into the hills, and hill country irrigation is challenging. You can't use traditional methods because of the runoff and erosion and all of those things. Quite frankly, our other product, K-Line, is widely used on hills, and some of it is starting to test the health and safety requirements of a farm, and some of it's just not quite smart.
But this will work.
But we can replace it, and with GSET, and the GSET is significantly better on those steep to undulating
and of course it would make the banking fraternity smile.
Well, it does, in the respect that a lot of this country is relatively cheap because of its previous limitations. So now if you can get water we can provide a very reliable, very efficient way of getting it onto the ground, and all of a sudden that marginal land is as productive as any land in the country, and the banks like productive. They like guaranteed income. So to date, on the projects that we've been involved with, the support from the banking fraternity has been very, very positive, because we're taking away one of the unknowns, which is, how many weeks of good production are we going to get?
Tony, 15 months of R&D, are you ready to sort of get it out into the community now?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we deliberately went and did it under the radar, so to speak, but even then it's been hard. The people are hearing about it. The grapevine's a wonderful thing, and we'd have over 700 in the field. Most of them are going most of the summer, and which has allowed us to get some real information, iron out a few bugs, and we believe we've got something quite robust. We're planning on a number of control systems. We have a battery control system, which is 100% robust and working absolutely fine, which just controls a single unit, and the challenge with that is that you've got to set them up on a bench, synchronise all the clocks, and then set them all, and then at their half-hour intervals, and then go and put them out. So only really practical for up to 50, or if you're a bold sort of person, 70. I have no doubt that there will be people who are prepared to persevere and do slightly larger numbers than that, but pretty time consuming, albeit only once, and then each time the batteries need replaced about every 5 years. Would that be the case? But for all intents and purposes, some of the big properties, it's just not viable. So we've gone to the trouble of teaming up with some experts, and because there's nothing available worldwide, nothing available to satisfy our needs, we've developed a radio mesh controller, which is what we have here today, and that allows us, if I can see one pod and that pod can see another pod, any one pod on the farm, from where I'm standing I can program it and control it and turn it on, turn it off. So we no longer need line of sight from a given control point. We can do it. So in a property like this, you might be able to pick out the cowshed in the background. We could put a controller in there, and it will control every single pod on this property, even though it can't see it, for a number of hills and obstacles.
And of course it leaves the trees in place.
Leaves the trees in place, absolutely no problem. And we're getting a lot of interest from people who actually are seeing it as an alternative on some properties to a pivot, where the pivot, there's no ideal circles, and to get an ideal circle means taking out trees and the grandfather planted and things like that. I believe we'll see whole properties actually done in GSET that could have possibly had some of it done on pivots.
Very clever people, and I knew that you'd like to see it again because of the looming dry, and I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but I think it's coming. After the break, we're going to be talking to Linda about Federated Farmers.
Kaikoura, located just 2 hours out of Christchurch. Kaikoura's amazing natural environment is what makes it one of New Zealand's must-see destinations. And the Kaikoura community has recognised the value of their environment as they enter their 10th year of environmental certification in order to protect it. Environmental certification is a commitment by all residents and businesses to act sustainably through having a zero waste commitment, biodiversity, water use and protecting the ocean resources through a coastline strategy. To find out more, visit kaikoura.co.nz.
Come in and meet the locals at the Bush Inn Centre. Whether it's to grab a coffee on the go or to catch up with a friend over lunch or dinner, the Bush Inn Centre is the perfect place. With our unique range of shops, you'll find everything you're looking for and more. Our friendly locals are always happy to help. We have plenty of parking at the Bush Inn Centre, making your shopping experience just a little bit easier. So come in, meet the locals and shop Bush Inn. You'll find us on the corner of Riccarton and Waimarie Roads.
One of the biggest challenges facing anybody is storage, or more to the point, a lack of it. That's where Russell and Rob come to the rescue. Their array of shelving and storage solutions is limitless. They can design and deliver exactly what you need, from shelves for the office, a workbench or storage for containers. These guys are one and only call you need to make. Shelfmart, shelving your concerns about storage.
Avoid the monkeys when it comes to relocating. Trust A1 Movers, a family business since 1993 that guarantees a professional job every time. We carefully handle and wrap your valued items, ensuring they have a safe journey. Secure storage and insurance options are also available.
A1 Movers, the careful, caring, moving company. Oi!
BioBrew probiotics are a safe and affordable way to improve animal health and farm profitability. Our products are independently tested for quality by Lincoln University and proven to work through independent trials. We're proud to let our product speak for itself and prove that it works on your farm before you buy. Call us today for your farm-sized free sample.
Ready to go, mate? Flight leaves at 4:30.
Relax, mate. We'll park at Airpark Canterbury.
Airpark Canterbury, privately owned and operated with a free 24/7 shuttle service. Call 0800 Airpark or book online at airparkcanterbury.co.nz. Have you seen something you like? You can purchase a copy of CTV's own shows so you can watch them again and again. So give us a call on 3777 033 and order a copy today.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Green Party taking a few shots at farmers at the moment.
Certainly laid down the challenge for the dairy industry, haven't they? It's a really interesting proposition, and I guess it sort of gets us into that debate about economic instruments and how well they work in terms of getting the behavioural change you're after. And we haven't used them a lot for environmental regulation in New Zealand, but some people will remember when subsidies, which is another form of economic instruments, was used for farm production for a wee while in the 70s and the early 80s, and quite a few perverse outcomes out of that one as well. They didn't necessarily always do what they thought they were going to do with them.
The interesting thing is they're talking about the negatives, but they're not talking about all the grass and the trees and everything else that are counteracting that. Then it doesn't seem to come up in conversation.
No, and I think that's a really good point, is what's the presumption behind what you're doing when you're setting out an economic instrument? I'm assuming that this is about concern that, and perhaps it's probably a real Canterbury issue, but are there areas where we're using too much irrigation water to produce milk and to support dairy farms, and the notion that perhaps if you start charging for that and internalising some of those costs, that somehow you will make a difference and people will think twice perhaps about doing dairy conversions. That might work if you start from the premise that a person wants to do a dairy conversion and therefore they're using the irrigation water to do that. But what we're actually finding a lot of the time when you talk to farmers about the choices that they're making, it's actually the other way around. They want the irrigation water to future-proof the farm, take the risk out of drought and climate change scenarios. And they're finding that the only way they can afford to do that is a dairy conversion. Now, if that scenario is right and you increase the price of water, rather than having less dairy conversions, you might actually find you end up with more, where you've got farmers who are irrigating at the moment and not doing dairy suddenly find they have to make the conversion in order to meet the costs of the water.
That's a different angle, isn't it? That's cart and horse, isn't it, really?
It is, but Huranui Water Project, which of course is an irrigation scheme that's being looked at up in North Canterbury, when they started their scheme, I was told water on farm was about $4,000 a hectare to the farm gate, and of the shareholders they surveyed, 12% said they would convert to dairying. So 88% of the shareholders were not going to do a dairy conversion. They were going to either go to something else like small seeds or bits and pieces, or carry on doing what they're doing now. The costs of that scheme have increased quite dramatically over time. They had to do a new proposal, and of course you've got your construction costs and bits and pieces. And it's up now around something like about $8,000 or $9,000 a hectare to get it on farm. The last survey I'm told they did, 60% of the shareholders said they would convert to dairy.
Because of what you've just been saying?
Because of the change in the price of the water.
Of course, the other scenario is Pannets Road, isn't it, down in mid-Canterbury, where it wasn't economic to convert, so they built a huge shed. And it now is more than economic.
That's right, yes. Yes.
So once again, the finances and the profitability are driving what is happening on the land.
I think that's right, and I think with things like economic instruments, there's so many variables at play that, you know, you do get these perverse outcomes because it's not, you know, people are not simple economic, you know, and we don't adhere to simple economic models of behaviour. There's so many other variables that come into play, so you don't necessarily get the outcome that you're seeking sometimes.
Is this Greens push at the moment, is that very similar to the fart tax that we had threatening us not long ago?
I get it sits in that same bucket, doesn't it, of using sort of taxes or economic instruments to try and curb behaviour. And that one's really interesting because, of course, that's the other thing they have proposed is a carbon tax on dairy cows. And I think I saw somewhere it works out something like about $29 a cow. And I must admit, again, Rob, I sat there and I thought, so what's the purpose of that? I mean, you know how much dairy cows are worth each. What difference is $29 a head going to make to your decision making in that space?
This is going to be a stone in your shoe, isn't it? It's just going to be damn annoying.
Well, I guess it's a little bit like the carbon taxes we're all paying on fuel and bits and pieces. You know, they may work where you have a situation where you've got a ready alternative that's available in the market and the price difference is sufficient to make people change their behaviour. But if you don't have those two things, then, like you say, they tend to be more a stone in your shoe or an extra cost rather than actually making any real difference to the way people behave.
Because most people I've spoken to, and they're saying, well, you know, A, where's the money going to go? I guess it goes into the consolidated fund. But B, this is the tax on production, and New Zealand relies on production. So why would you go to a factory and say we're going to tax you to make sure you don't make any profit?
That's right. And the thing about that too is that when you look at where most of our dairy exports go, well, our dairy produce goes, 90% of it is exported. And when you compare us with the rest of the world, we are more efficient producers of protein per carbon emission than anybody else. So you have to be careful you don't price New Zealand product out of the market and turn your consumers to getting their dairy products from somewhere else where they are produced with substantially more carbon emissions or methane emissions or anything else than what's done in New Zealand, or in terms of global climate change you're actually adding to rather than reducing the problem.
An old saying of killing the golden goose, Linda. Thank you very much indeed. And Warwick Green was saying to me that he couldn't see across 2 lanes of the highway because of the pollution in Beijing. Phone numbers that you'll be wanting to drop down on your piece of paper on the screen now. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you've just missed Rob's Country, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.